Hello, everyone. Welcome to New Gen Politics. So, how do we feel about a Trump-Haley presidency? Do you think Nikki Haley would be a good choice as Donald Trump's vice president? Well, a lot of people say yes, and a lot of people say no. So today, let's break down the pros and the cons of adding her to the ticket. First off, Haley is a representation of the more liberal side of the Republican Party. She represents the more establishment and neocon Republicans, and she also represents the never-Trumper wing of the party. That's where she's getting a major amount of her support. She's also getting support from the people who originally were in favor of Ron DeSantis, those donors. They've switched to Nikki Haley and have started backing her instead. She brings with her a lot of money because she has a lot of donors, but what comes along with that is a lot of special interest groups wanting favors from her if she becomes president or vice president. And the thing is, Nikki Haley is no stranger to quid pro quo. It seems her record with Boeing and her relationship with the military-industrial complex as a whole has tainted her view of the priorities of what the American people actually need. I've said it before, and I think it's true, that Nikki Haley would crawl over broken glass to start a war. Every time she's out on stage, the thing she says leads to war. And it seems like she wants to start a war. Doesn't matter with who, she just wants to start a war. Let's bomb Iran. For what reason? Is that a good idea? Probably not. Does she want to without regarding any consequences? Yes, absolutely. Does she want to physically go to war with Russia? Yeah. Does she want to continue the never-ending war in Gaza? Yeah, she does. Nikki seems like she'd throw a dart at a map and invade that country just so she could get the money pipeline flowing to the people who got her elected. The people who make money off of war, who make money off of heavy industry. So I think in that sense, she's pretty distrustworthy. I think when it comes to choosing a vice president, a lot of times people look at just solely the demographics of the person. So which state are they from? Are they a man or a woman? What's the color of their skin? And that seems to be the only important factors. And a lot of people want a woman as vice president because they think women will automatically vote for them. And so they put Nikki Haley on Trump's shortlist. And Trump hasn't seemed to totally shut out the idea of picking Nikki Haley. And Nikki says they've worked well together. So there's always that chance that they go for that relationship and try to continue that. That worries me. I think Trump may pick her just because she's a woman and she's got decent poll numbers right now. But the problem is, this is not just pick a candidate and everyone will support them. There's a large vocal group of people who say they don't want Nikki Haley so much they may not even vote for Trump. Among those is Tucker Carlson, who said this when posed the question, would he support a Trump-Haley presidency?
Would you vote for Trump if he chose Nikki as VP? And
would you guys vote for Trump? Well, that's the question that I asked you specifically.
Well, I would not only not vote for that ticket, I would advocate against it as strongly as I could.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's just poison. I mean, here's someone who's actively opposed to the interests of the country I grew up in, who endorsed the BLM riots, and who is not only is not left, but is neoliberal in the darkest, most, speaking of nihilistic way, and has no real popular support. Is a creature of the oligarchs. So yeah, that would be reason to oppose the ticket.
Even Trump, Haley is a no-go.
Nikki Haley,
he would get assassinated immediately if that were the case.
Yeah, and by the way, I just can't imagine a world where that could happen. That would be so crazy. I mean, anything could happen, of course, but picking Nikki Haley, who's utterly treacherous and utterly dismissive of like the interests of Americans, yeah.
So I agree with him. I think Nikki Haley is dangerous. I think she has interests that don't align with the American people. I think she has people she owes that she's dependent on. And even though she's well-spoken, even though she has some accomplishments, even though she's a woman, I don't think that balances out the problem she carries with her. And if you have a group of people that wouldn't vote for Trump or would be very concerned if Haley was chosen, I think that's bad. Don't cause division in the ranks. Pick somebody who your base already likes and is palatable to the other parts of the party and independents. And maybe even some Democrats. Someone like Tucker Carlson, someone like Vivek. Those two are the number one choice by the Trump supporters, and I think they're palatable enough to the other parts of the party. And even some liberals like Tucker Carlson. I mean, Joe Rogan has said good things about Tucker Carlson. A lot of newscasters see him as fair. They see him as asking good questions. He's somebody who's been in politics his whole life, but hasn't become corrupted. I think that's a good point, is that a lot of these people, small town senator from Iowa ends up going to the US Capitol and then gets corrupted, right? You have the story of good people with good intentions. They get around the power, they get around the money, they get around the influence, and then they start to wafer a little bit. Where Tucker Carlson has been around it his whole life and he hasn't changed. Being president would actually probably be more of a drag to him than a benefit. Actually, I think it would almost certainly be more of a detriment to him than a benefit. He's got everything he needs. He's got the publicity. He's got the popularity. He's got the lifestyle. He's got the influence. And he just seems like a regular guy, despite on paper his circumstances showing that he isn't. But people see him as an everyman because he acts that way, not as a facade, but that's just who he is. He understands how to treat people right. He understands that everyone has human dignity. He understands that it's good to help people in need and that the country should function to help those who don't fully understand how to help themselves or those who have been hurt by the system that we currently have. The government should work for the people. That's the point. I think Tucker understands that. I think Vivek understands that. His policies push towards the future. Both of them are more populist, but I think Vivek has outlined some very specific plans for how he would overhaul the government, plans for where we should go as a country towards the future. They represent the younger branch of the Republican Party that says, we don't want to conserve something that sucks. We don't want to hold on to ideals where we lose every time. We want a right-wing ideology, but we want something that pushes us into the future. We don't want to hold on desperately to bad policies, like horrible foreign policy that we've had the last couple decades from the Republican Party. We don't want to hold on to this belief that corporations can do no wrong. That's what the new side of the party says. We're done with that. We're done with those ideologies. And Nikki Haley represents those ideologies. And so you have this balance of, do you want to push towards the future? And Trump does. Or do you want to take, quote unquote, the safer bet, pick Haley, gain the support of the other side of the party, while maybe risking losing some of your own support in order to win so you can keep implementing your own ideas? But even if that's the case, I think Trump constantly will have to watch his back. Make sure she doesn't sneak up on him with a baseball bat in the middle of the night, because Nikki wants to be president so desperately. And having her next in line concerns me. I would actually be worried. I, in good conscience, would have a hard time voting for Trump if he picked Nikki Haley, because I dislike Nikki Haley so much. In the end, I probably would, because I like Trump. But man, I don't want Nikki anywhere near the presidency, because the last thing I want is to go to war on day one. And that seems like the only thing she wants to do. So let me know, do you think Nikki would be a good pick? Do you think someone else would be better? Do you think Tucker or Vivek? Or maybe somebody else you have in mind? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.